Hi there, and welcome back to the channel. So, got through the drums, and that's really the most important part of any song is the bedrock, you know, the drums. I think in rock and roll the drums are like, the drummer is like the most important part. So, that is done, and I'm excited to have that completed. It's not the greatest drum track in the world, but I think it's good enough, and it captures the moment, and it matches up with the other tracks. I went back and reviewed all the songs that I have, and just trying to make sure, you know, that because one of them I basically eliminated, the song called We Know Them. I went back and listened to it, and I remember struggling so hard with that song, trying to make it work, you know. And I'm of the philosophy, basically, that if it doesn't work, you know, if it doesn't just pop out correctly and you have to work on it too much, sometimes it's fated for, you know, termination. So if I go through this list on my projects, I have my song Are You Ready? I listen to that. I love it. I mean, I don't love any of my songs, but I'm happy with what I have. The Drugstore Cowboy tune, I'm happy with that. It has like a lot of passion. I like that Monkeys part that goes the El Dorado song, good album cut. It's not the greatest song, probably will never be played live, but has a cool little thing going on. Works on a record, you know. That's fine. The Fighter. That's the second, I think that'll be the second song on the record. I love that one. It's like my favorite one. It just sounds like something you could play on the radio if you were in another dimension. Alright, so this song right now, Hell Yes, is currently my other favorite song, because it's evolved into something killer that originally was like kind of trying to do this blues thing, and it is still blues thing, but now it's becoming more wicked and more like me, you know. So I got that one. I forgot to count these. We Know Them is the one I'm not happy with. Witching Hour is okay too. So it's only one song, and you know, right now I've got another song I haven't debuted yet for my channel, just to keep track of everything and how it went down, you know, when the composition came to life or whatever. So I've got another one coming that I'm really excited about. It sort of sounds like a bookend to the Hell Yes tune. It's like the same kind of feel. So I think it's a good idea to have another one that feels like that to make the record make sense. But now, so I've got three. I've got this one to finish, a brand new one, that Spy for Love song, but I've kind of rocked it up where it's faster. It's not such it's not so mournful. It's more upbeat, up tempo. And then I think another one's going to happen. Usually I write songs like in threes, and so I wrote that Hell Yes tune, and then I've written this other one that has the same feel that I'm really stoked about, and then I'm thinking another one's going to pop that's going to be in that same realm. And then I'll feel like the album is wrapped. And then who knows, maybe new songs will come, and the next one will get eliminated, like, because you know I don't have much time to work with these songs. I'm not playing them live for a long time. I write them and then like record them, and sometimes you don't have enough time to live with the material and decide, you know, is this really any good or not? Because now my test is like, will my band play this live, you know? And not every song is made for playing live. There's a couple of tunes where I'm like, oh, we'll never play this live, but I don't mind it being on the record. But it's kind of a good test. Like, would anybody even want to play this? Does anybody want to hear this? You know what I mean? Well, your own personal obsession or a song that you got through and it's like, whew, you know, and you made it over the hurdles or whatever. That's a personal, you know, accomplishment for you. It might not be something that anybody else wants to share in. Like, it might not be good enough. It was just something you had to get through. And that's how I kind of feel about that tune. It just doesn't match up with the record anymore. So anyway, if you came here to figure out how to use two microphones with a Zoom, I'll start talking about that now. Okay, so you've got these two microphones. Now, what I like to do with the Zoom, and you can do anything you want, you know, that's what's cool about these machines, is whatever you find that works for you. But what I like to do with the drums and with the guitar is no effects going in. I might every once in a while try something on the snare, but I find that it just all sounds better with no effects. And the same thing with the guitar amp. Because once you pick an effect and you lay it on there, it's stuck on there. There's no way to get it off. Whereas if you just record what's naturally there, you can always add that stuff in later, you know, if you feel like you need something after the fact. And I find that works pretty well in the digital realm. In analog, I like to have everything there and record it that way, because that's it, you know, unless you're going to go into digital. And usually when I'm in analog, I like to stay there. I may not be that strident about it now, but that's the way I used to roll. Okay, so I want to use 2 mics. And the reason being is that the song ends up sounding bigger, like you can split it out, you know, like a stereo split. I guess it's really dual mono, but it's like, you know, stereo recording, and that, no, I guess it is stereo. Yeah, because we're going to pan this one like 40, pan that one 40, maybe 50. You can always do more in post, but when I record, I'll pan it out a little. But the main thing that you have to make sure is that you make sure that the microphones are equidistant from the speaker cones, or you will have phase issues. And what I like to get things as simple as possible, so I made an 8-inch mark on this drumstick because I like my microphones to be about 8 inches out from the cabinet. A lot of people put them like right up on the grill, and that's fine, but with these ribbon mics it doesn't work that well. And I've learned that this extra space here gives you a little more room tone, a little more air. I don't know why, just I like it a lot better than close miking. I guess I'm not huge on close miking. I don't do much of it. Like I don't close mic my bass drum. I don't close mic anything really, except maybe the snare drum. That's usually 3 inches out on the snare. Okay, so what I usually do is I make this 8-inch mark, right? And then I'm going to put it right here, and then I'm going to line it up at the edge of this microphone's casing, and the same thing here. And this one looks a little different. I'm going to make this one drop down too. This one lost its place in the shock mount, so it kind of falls forward. And I want to make sure that they're exactly the same, so I'm going to let this one drop in the shock mount too. They don't look the same height, but you can measure that here, I guess. That's not so important. What's important is that this distance be the same, or you will have phase issues. And the way you'll know that is when you try to push the volume up on your fader, like if you try to, like when you're playing it back, it's going to sound all wonky. Like you'll push up one side and you'll lose the other channel, and then you'll push that channel up and then you'll lose this side, and then you end up only being able to get sound out of it if one is up and one's kind of down, and it sounds out of phase, like a Strat in the second or fourth position, but not pleasant. It's like half the sound is gone. Less quack and more like less sound. Alright, so these microphones are looking the same, and what I do is I'm going to line this line up right here to get this exactly where right there, right where I want it. And then this one needs to come back a tad. This is really tricky. And there's better ways to do this, I'm sure, but this is how I do it. Now, what you want to do, usually I'm using another microphone, or sometimes I'll use another microphone, and that one is a large diaphragm condenser, and I'll go to a preamp because I need phantom power. In this case, I'm using 2 ribbons to keep it simple. I like the way these ribbons sound on electric guitar. Just sort of smooths things out a little bit in a pleasant, euphonic way. But I don't need any phantom power for these, obviously. You don't want to put phantom power in a ribbon. And so I'm going directly into the zoom, just keeping it really simple. Sometimes I'll go to the preamp and then to the zoom, so I'll get extra juice, especially for running phantom power. The high Z, we're going to turn that off. We don't have a high Z input. We don't need that on, and that could interfere. I'm going to arm both tracks so that both tracks are red. And you'll see that here, that both tracks are armed. And let's see. We don't know what levels are going to be, but let's go to Pan EQ. And I'm in track 1. I'm going to take my wheel down the bottom arrow, pushing it down. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom and see what my level of my fader is. It says 94. So I'm going to just turn the wheel. I got it on the 0 line, which is like unity gain. And I'm going to turn the wheel until I get to 100. Now I'm going to take the arrow, this right arrow here, and click it over. It'll take me to channel 2 or track 2. And I'm going to go to 100 on that one as well. So now we have a perfect match of unity gain on each side. Now, the gain, I'm going to leave it at 12 o'clock on each one. So I've got both rolled to 12 o'clock here, these two gain knobs. And we'll just see, we're going to have to adjust this, I'm sure. This guitar is going to be loud as hell. This amp is going to be all the way cranked up. And I've got my Fender Partscaster guitar, Stratocaster, the Black Limba, and what we could do, or what I suggest that you do, is record a sample and make sure that you're not out of phase before you start getting into tracking. But very similar to what I did with the drums, except now my drums are my click track. I can play to the drums. It feels good. I've been practicing it at home and everything worked. I didn't make any mistakes in that. None of the timing is off, or all the parts line up with the drums and feels natural. Feels like a drummer and a guitar player, not a weirdo sitting around stacking instruments up. Alright, so to review, we've got the amp in standby, and that could be debated whether you should do that or not. It depends on the circuit. But then we've got the two microphones. One is on the left speaker, one is on the right speaker. A quick note, these are Celestion speakers. I can't remember which way it goes. I think this one is a G12H30, the Celestion G12H30 Heritage Anniversary Edition, and that is an Alnico Blue. On the bottom, I have a cross to that Alnico Blue, if that's where it is. I think it is sitting there. Across from that is the warehouse version of that speaker, but it's the higher wattage one. And then across from this one is their Reaper speaker, which is similar to the G12H30. And what's interesting is the warehouse speakers are on the bottom. I think a lot of their emphasis is more on the magnet and the frame, and the magnet. And then the Celestion people are more about the frame and the paper. Anyway, they kind of have two different goals, so it's kind of cool to have the two of them together, because there's some really nice bass that comes out of this thing, and then you get that raw rasp as well. Almost sounds like a Fender amp, but there's no way to confuse it for a Fender amp, because the EL84s in there just have like this kind of sweet richness that sounds way more distorted than 6L6s or 6V6s. It's a smaller bottle tube, so you get more of that kind of rich harmonic, distortion naturally than you would from the bigger Fender tubes. Okay, so no effects, unity gain. We're at 12 o'clock. The high Z is off. We are basically the same distance, and we'll find out if we're out of phase when we do a sample. And let's just see what it sounds like and see what the experience is like. Oh, okay. Now make sure that the effects are off. And then I'm going to make sure by hitting Pan EQ and going to 17 through 24 and then working my way over to the master, and that's at 96. So I'm going to put it at 100. It went to 103, so I'm going to roll it back to 100. And I'll start there. Of course, we can manipulate the gain, and if we needed to, the channel strip like I did with the snare drum when I was recording the snare. But more than likely, these microphones are not that powerful, so I'll be able to crank pretty hard, and I'm going to need some extra gain. Alright, so let's just see what happens here when we start working with it. And I hope I can hear the drums. Let me just start, before I crank that up, let me just see what it sounds like, or let you see what it sounds like. Slightly more gain on the right channel, and it's not because of the difference in I think my distance is okay. It is because the Celestion Blue puts out less upfront power, doesn't peak as much as the G12H30. Okay, so let's see what happens when I turn the drums on. The levels look fantastic. Okay, I already messed up the cue. It has this little 1, 2, 3, and you're supposed to do this thing. All right, hold on. Okay, so the first problem is that, but let's listen to this back so we can decide if we're in phase. And just turn that all the way off. I don't want to use standby. Sometimes I hear that standby is not good, and there's no reason to leave it on or keep it warm for a show or anything like that. Because I'm just sitting here talking to you people, not waiting to go on stage. Okay, so that's going to sound like a mess. Because it was off with the drums, mainly because I have to pump the levels on the drums up. This thing is so loud, headphones on, and it's coming through the headphones and the drums are coming through, so you have to pump the drums up a little bit more. Sometimes if I feel like my ears are getting tired, I'll put those earplugs in, and so that everything's cranked and you can still hear it, but it just takes the edge off, so when you go home you don't have all that ringing. And I try to, take care of my ears as much as a rocker can, just so I don't have, no hearing for my grandchildren and all that kind of thing. All right, so let's see what happened. It's going to sound like crap at the drums, so maybe I will just take the drums out of it. Okay, so we should be still connected to this crazy thing. Oops, don't make me drop my guitar. Okay. So I'm going to go to the left output here, turn this baby on, and let me just kill the drums so it doesn't sound distracting. And I did that by going to the last row of the channel strip and just pulling them out so they're muted. Okay. Let's just see what happened. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I don't think it'll be in sync with the drums. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I got off track because I couldn't hear the drums, but it's in phase. That's always like a thing, So I'm going to go back to number 1, the first row, make sure I'm armed again. And I'm going to undo that because the mission has been accomplished. We set the mics up, we ran them to the zoom, the effects are off, unity gain is at 100, both tracks are armed. We made sure that these are exactly the same distance, and that's the main deal. And we got a great sounding guitar tone. This guitar sounds amazing, mainly because it was a really nice piece of Carina wood, or Limba wood, black Limba. And a guy I met online named Toby Russell cut it, and he did a fantastic job. And then he helped me set the whole guitar up, basically. He did everything to get me running. I just did all the setup stuff later. And I learned a lot, and I'm continuing to learn. But this thing ended up terrific. And the main thing that I really love about this guitar, besides everything about the guitar, the roasted maple neck by Fender, the incredible body by Toby, the electronics are fantastic, but it's these Lawler pickups, man, that are just like A+. I'm telling you. It's insane. I don't know if you guys got off on that tone, but I was using this bridge pickup. Let me just show you. It just sounds freaking amazing, fantastic, wonderful, like transcendent. I was going to say transcendental, but it doesn't do that. It just transcends. I guess it's still transcendental. Okay, so that's the bridge pickup. It's like let's try that in the neck pickup. So it's more biting and harsh, and then this thick special pickup, this bridge one, same sounding. Listen to this one. Gives you more of like a heavy, deep sound, more bass and just thicker. Okay, I got a new riff that I love the way it sounds with this pickup. How about the middle pickup, the Clapton's position? How about neck? It's going to bite really hard. This neck position does almost like a Telly Bridge type impersonation. It's like so biting. It's let's try the middle, just for giggles. Give you like a thicker sound, but the thickest, and like, listen to this, like if you make these little upstrokes, you get like this kind of bottle sound, like a bottle rolling down the street. It's amazing. God. recording guitars. Man, I'm telling you, with the drums and the guitar tone like that, this song's going to really lift off. Then we move to bass, vocals, and then it's the next one. So I'm on a mission right now to like just hammer out 3 in a row. So I'm going to get busy and try to make the most of the rest of this month, rest of this year, and try to get some work done so that I'll feel like, you know, progress was made. And I hope that everyone out there is, you know, getting something out of this and it's useful to help you stay inspired, maybe give you a tip or two that you hadn't heard before about the Zoom, because there's a lot to it, you know, and you have to sort of get heavy into it to find all the, you know, sort of hidden things that make the recording sound better. Next time.